The SAP ERP provides large businesses with a single software system to support all major business functions, no matter the industry. SAP's ERP is a suite of integrated modules used to collect, transact, and report on data from their business activities. It enables the flow of information between the different parts of a company and with outside stakeholders like customers and vendors. My name is Justin Valley. I've been an SAP trainer and organizational change manager for over 10 years. I've been a part of 11 SAP implementations at Fortune 500 companies across various industries. This course is for anyone who uses SAP ERP at work or anyone who wants a high-level understanding of this enterprise software. I'll cover tips and tricks to help you use SAP more effectively. If you want to expand your knowledge on how SAP ERP can work together with your business and take your navigation and reporting skills to another level, this course is for you. There are many benefits and limitations of using SAP. Reasons for and against implementing SAP at an organization could fill an entire course. That said, let's review the top benefits and limitations. So why would a company spend so much time and money getting rid of their old systems and transition to SAP? First, SAP eliminates information silos and standardizes data across an entire company or multiple companies. For example, instead of having one system that handles all of your company's vendors and a different system that handles all of your company's inventory, all of this information is housed in SAP. As a result, SAP automates core processes. For example, is there a part that needs to be ordered every time your inventory reaches a certain threshold? Rules can be set up to automatically order the new parts from your preferred vendors when stocks hit a lower limit. Also, SAP ERP facilitates better decision-making. Because all of a business's processes are in one system, you can create powerful, real-time reports that provide in-depth data. Having access to this information in real time allows decision-makers to collaborate, solve problems, and recognize opportunities on the fly. Finally, SAP is known for prioritizing an organization's security and compliance. SAP's rule design feature allows for appropriate segregation of duties. It ensures only those who should be able to see sensitive information or make business decisions have the access to do so. It's also possible to customize SAP configuration settings with a company's policies, ensuring compliance across the system and with federal regulations. So, we've talked about the benefits. Now let's have a look at the limitations of SAP. SAP is notorious for a very high total cost of ownership, or TCO. There are very high acquisition and implementation costs, paired with recurring maintenance costs. Implementing SAP has a definite ROI, but it may be farther away than companies realize. Not only is it expensive, it can take years to implement SAP across an entire organization. SAP is highly configurable, and because every company is unique, customizing SAP to fit a business can result in unexpected multi-year implementations. Finally, the software itself can be really challenging at first. There's a steep learning curve that requires proper training for users to get up to speed. In companies where people have been doing their job a certain way for years, there can be huge resistance to change. These growing pains have to be addressed proactively with a robust training strategy to get users up to speed. Implementing SAP at an organization is a huge undertaking. Let's take a look at the steps needed for a successful implementation. Depending on who you ask, there are multiple successful strategies to implement SAP. However, they all follow a similar flow. Project preparation is first. Project cost, scope, and resources are all decided during this step. The implementation team studies the current systems being used. Then, they determine which system interfaces are required. This step also includes business blueprinting. This is where requirements for the new system are mapped. The second step is called realization. System configuration takes place during realization. Configuration is where SAP is matched with a company's existing business processes. All configuration is done utilizing the existing SAP structure and functionalities. In other words, configuration ties together the way a company works with the out-of-the-box functionality of SAP. Realization is also where customization occurs. Basically, customization is making a change that is not supported by SAP's default functionalities. Customizations are expensive and can really extend the length of an implementation. They can also complicate future upgrades of SAP. The third step in typical implementations is testing. There are different types of testing. One type is called unit testing, which tests individual parts of the program. Next, integration testing tests how the systems are working together and how the program affects downstream business processes. Business day-in-the-life testing is used to test the system by running entire processes from start to finish. And finally, performance testing ensures the system can handle all the data and transactions. It makes sure the system is fast enough for the end users. The fourth step in an implementation is final preparation. This is where all master data, like customers, vendors, and materials, is uploaded into the new system. Final preparation is also where security roles are set up and training is conducted for all end users. The fifth step is go live. This is when all cutover activities, basically switching from old systems to SAP, happens. At this point, end users start using the SAP production environment daily for their work. Finally, the last step is post-go-live support. This is where any production problems can be solved, and any non-business critical or your nice-to-have customizations are developed, tested, and implemented into the system. These processes, end-to-end, can take as little as 6 months up to 4 or 5 years for very complex implementations. Companies often choose multi-wave implementations. This means they'll implement at one location and ensure the system works well before implementing at other sites. The SAP ERP is broken up into different modules that all interact with each other to form a comprehensive solution. Let's look at a very high-level overview. There are 2 types of modules in SAP: technical modules and functional modules. Technical modules deal with SAP infrastructure. Work done in technical modules makes sure the system runs correctly. Developing or maintaining functional applications is completed in technical modules. Because of this, most SAP end users never come in contact with any of these modules. We'll spend most of our time focusing on functional modules. Functional modules support transactions. These align with business processes. Modules have very strong integration. This means they send information between each other very efficiently. And this is one of SAP's biggest strengths. There are many functional modules in SAP. Here are some examples of the most common functional modules. The first group we'll look at are accounting modules. SAP Financial Accounting includes the general ledger, accounts payable, and accounts receivable. Next is SAP Controlling. This is where profit center and cost center accounting occur. A third common accounting module is SAP Project Systems. This houses project planning, project monitoring, and project costing functionality. The next group are logistics modules. SAP Sales and Distribution has sales order processing and shipping. The SAP Materials Management module includes purchasing, inventory management, and valuation. Next, SAP Production Planning includes production order processing and materials requirement planning. SAP Quality Management is where incoming, in-process, and final inspections are all done. And SAP Plant Maintenance includes breakdown, predictive, and preventive maintenance functions. Finally, SAP Human Capital Management and the Human Resources area can capture the entire cycle of an employee at a company, from a new hire all the way to termination. Besides the typical functional modules, there are many industry-specific modules available in SAP as well. Modules that are industry solutions start with I and S. For example, the ISA module is built for the automotive industry, while IS-IPM deals with the licensing of intellectual property. Modules that are financial services related are built for banks and insurance firms. 2 examples of financial services modules are FSCM, which deals with claims management, and FSICM, which does incentive and commission management. If there's a business process or need, SAP probably has a module built for it. In SAP, you'll often hear about two types of data, master data and transactional data. Let's take a look at the differences between the two. Master data refers to all the information that deals with people, places, or objects in the system. Master data is the foundation that the database is built on. Without accurate master data, transactions cannot occur. Master data tends to be relatively static. Examples of master data in SAP includes the information in vendor master records, customer master records, and employee master data. On the other hand, transactional data records the actions of a business. This type of data represents the bulk of day-to-day transactions. Transactional data is constantly changing. Examples of transactional data in SAP include the information found in purchase orders, sales orders, or changing a work schedule. We need both types of data to be accurate to have an effective system. But if the master data is not correct, the transactional data will never be right. The term client in SAP has a unique meaning. Let's look at clients in the SAP world. Clients are essentially self-contained business units within each SAP system. When you log into SAP, you choose the specific client you want to access. Each client is assigned a 3-digit number. There are different types of clients in SAP, and we'll look at a few of the most common here. If you're an end user, you'll normally log into what is called the production client. The production client is the system of record for a business. Another type of client is quality assurance. This is where system developers can check on customizations and development changes and make sure they'll work with other parts of the system. Next, the sandbox client is a place to experiment with new changes or customizations before they're moved into production. Finally, the training client is where all the end-user training can take place. Folks being trained don't have to worry about messing anything up as they're learning how to use the new system. These last three types of clients are what is often referred to as non-production clients. Let's take a look at how different SAP clients may be set up at a large company. Really big companies tend to break up their clients by either business unit or by geographic area. This example looks at a company that has different SAP ERP clients for each of its business units. This is our imaginary company called Widgets Are Us. Our company has two separate business units, Widget Manufacturing and Widget Consulting Services. Because our business units are quite different, it makes sense for us to have different clients for each business unit. On the manufacturing side, we have Client 100, which is production, Client 101 for training, Client 102 for quality, and Client 104 as a sandbox. The consulting services side has a different production client, 110 in this case, and a different training client, number 111. This is a simple example, but the larger the organization, the more complex the client structure will be. SAP has customizable security roles. Let's take a look at how they work. Not every SAP end user will have the same access in the system. When a user profile is first created, they are mapped to a security role. The role that the user is mapped to will either allow or deny access to different transactions. It will also allow or deny access to different organizational levels in the system. Organizational levels are things like company code, plant, or sales organization. Security roles in SAP ensure that there is a segregation of duties across a business. They make sure that the right people are doing the right transactions in the right areas of the system. Let's look at an example. Let's imagine there's a shop floor manager, and she's mapped to a role called Manufacturing Manager. This Manufacturing Manager role allows her to approve time off for her direct reports. It also allows her to create purchase orders in the system for her plant in California. Because her security role is mapped this way, she's denied access when she tries to approve time off for her friend in accounting. The role she is mapped to does not show her friend in accounting as one of her reports, so access is denied. Similarly, when she tries to extend credit to a new customer in the system, she would hit a hard stop. Our shop floor manager would have to reach out to someone in sales or finance to determine if the new customer was to receive credit access. SAP ERP is broken up into different modules that interact with each other. Let's dive into the SAP Financial Accounting module, often referred to as SAP FI. The SAP FI module is responsible for tracking and reporting on financial data across an organization. It contains nearly every financial business process a company may have. Because it is so versatile, the SAP FI module is one of the most widely implemented by companies using SAP. In SAP FI, the first place to start is with the General Ledger, or GL. The GL includes all of a company's financial transaction data and a chart of accounts, where all of the accounts are listed in the system. Transactions are recorded in submodules that can be reconciled with the General Ledger data in real time. 4 primary submodules of the SAP FI module in the General Ledger are Accounts Payable, Accounts Receivable, Asset Accounting, and Bank Management. Accounts Payable, or AP, is the submodule that houses vendor-related data, payment terms. Capabilities of accounts payable include invoice and credit memo posting, invoice payments, and automatic payments program. It's also where vendor reporting happens. Let's take a look at an example. This screenshot shows our test system displaying a payment to a vendor named ABC Insurance for $15,000. It also shows the GL account we're working in. Next, we have accounts receivable, or AR. This is where we deal with customers and manage customer data. Transactions in accounts receivable include invoice posting and payments, credit memo posting, and it's where we can run any customer-based reporting we may need. Again, let's jump into an example. This screenshot displays a customer's balance for a customer named Exotic Woods for the fiscal year 2018. The customer's total cumulative balance at the time of this transaction was $29,000. The SAP FI submodule that deals with a company's fixed assets is called Asset Accounting. Examples of fixed assets are things like owned warehouses, land, and computer hardware or software. Functions of asset accounting include recording acquisition, depreciation, sales, and the retirement of these fixed assets. Let's look at an asset master record. This screenshot shows the asset master record for a fixed asset called Office Walnut Desk Boardroom. Drilling down from this screen, we'd be able to view this asset's value and other details by clicking the Asset Values button. The final major submodule of the General Ledger is Bank Accounting. It deals with all of the company's bank account transactions. It can reconcile all transactions recorded on bank statements and compare them with the transactions in the system to make sure they balance. Let's look at a bank master record. This screenshot shows a bank master record for Chase Manhattan Bank. It includes the bank key and the SWIFT number. A major benefit of the way the SAP FI system is designed is that all of the submodules are integrated and transactions are updated in real time. This means that accurate financial statements can be pulled from the system at a moment's notice. Let's look at the SAP Controlling module called SAP CO. SAP CO deals with planning and monitoring business operation costs. It has powerful reporting functions and can show exactly where money is being spent at a company. Ideally, this can be used to increase profitability. The 5 primary submodules of the SAP CO module are Profit Center Accounting, Cost Center Accounting, Internal Orders, Product Costing, and Profitability Analysis. Profit Center Accounting is used to evaluate profit or loss of independent areas within a company instead of looking at a company's profitability as a whole. Let's take a look at a profit center in SAP. This screenshot displays a profit center called Widget Sales. It shows the profit center number, the controlling area, and the validity date. As you can see, there is no end date for this specific profit center. Next, we'll look at cost centers. They deal with the costs associated with a company's internal departments, like sales or human resources. Cost centers deal only with expenses, not revenues. They show exactly how much departments are spending. Let's take a look at a cost center. This screenshot shows a cost center called Accounting. We can see that the cost center category is marked as W, which means it's an administration cost center. Internal orders are used for in-depth analysis of short-term projects, or a one-time expense such as a trade show. This screenshot shows an internal order for a trade show. We can say the order number and the order type is Y400. This is the code for internal order marketing. Product costing looks at the costs required to produce goods and services. It gives clarity to manufacturing costs, and it helps with decisions on whether it's worth buying a product to resell or better to make it in-house. Let's take a look at an example. This screenshot shows a material cost estimate for a material called Blue Widgets Size 2. We can see the total value of $187.50 for each blue widget manufactured. Finally, profitability analysis measures the profitability of the products or services offered, and it helps to make pricing decisions. A key feature is the ability to determine profitability by geographic region or country, distribution channel, or how profitable a single customer is. The controlling module as a whole is used to compare actual results to planned results. It uses future planning and projections to make better informed management decisions. The SAP Sales and Distribution module, or SAP SD, is the backbone of selling and transportation of products and services. SAP SD is a logistics module that is used to deal with customer and product-related data. Organizations use this data to manage all of the sales ordering, shipping, billing, and invoicing of their goods and services. SD is best visualized when broken into the sales cycle. First are pre-sales actions, where inquiries and quotations are created. Next is sales, where the actual sales orders are created. Third is shipping. This is where delivery documents are created and goods are picked from the warehouse. Last is billing, where billing documents and invoices are created. Let's look at a typical sales and distribution process in the system. This is a sales quotation in the system. This quote is for a quantity of 5 hours of a service called Service Material 01. The total amount is $624, and the payment is due on the last day of the month. Quotations turn into sales orders, and we'll look at a sales order in SAP next. In this screenshot, we see a sales order with a net value of $110,120. Sales orders are very similar to quotations. You can actually create sales orders with reference to the quotations that are already in the system. This will bring over a bunch of information like the sold to and shipped to parties, so you don't need to re-enter that information. After sales orders, our shipping documents are created. This next shot displays the outbound delivery document. In this screen, we can see the dates where the products are being picked from the warehouse and the delivery date and time of 11 o'clock on March 16, 2018. We've looked at our sales quotes, sales orders, and outbound delivery documents. The final step in this process is billing. This screenshot shows an invoice with a net value of $480 that was billed on March 14, 2018. We've had a look at the general sales and distribution process in SAP. Each of these steps in the SAP SD module generate transactions in the other modules in SAP. For example, when a sales order is generated, the system does a product availability check in the materials management area to make sure there is actually stock to be sold. At the same time, SAP also runs a credit check for a customer, and it runs a tax calculation in the FICO modules. The next module we'll take a look at is Materials Management, or MM. This is a logistics module that many other modules rely on to keep the supply chain functioning. Materials management ensures that there are always the required materials in stock. The key benefits of materials management are the way it can help increase productivity and reduce costs by handling materials efficiently. 4 major components of materials management in SAP are purchasing, inventory management, physical inventory, and material master data. The first major component of the MM module is purchasing. This includes procurement activities like purchase requisitions and purchase orders. Let's take a look at a purchase order in the system. This is a shot of a standard purchase order. We can see the vendor number and the date the order was created at the top. The grid below shows line items of what was ordered from the vendor, the delivery date, and the net price. In this case, it was one piece, it cost 50,000 euros, and it was delivered on May 11, 2018. Inventory management in the MM module does exactly what it says. It manages the inventory. Examples here include goods receipts and internal transfers, where we move a material from one storage area to another. Let's look at an inventory management transaction in the system. This transaction is called Material Document List. Basically, it's showing the movement history of a specific material. In this case, we're looking at the movement of a material called Blue Widgets Size 1. This is all happening at plant number 1010. The column on the left shows the storage locations, and each of the line items shows a movement. Closely tied to inventory management, we've got physical inventory. This is where physical inventory is documented, and we can run special inventory processes like cycle counts. A cycle count is where a small sample of inventory in one storage location is counted at a specific time. Let's look at physical inventory in the system. This is a physical inventory document, which shows a physical inventory count in plant 1710 at storage location 171B. This planned count date was on February 14th, and it was executed on February 14th. Lastly, we'll look at master data in materials management. First, our material master records. They include as many as 200 plus fields about a specific material. Next, our vendor master records, which have all the physical and financial information pertaining to a vendor. Finally, we've got purchasing information records, which are basically the marriage between material information and vendor information. For example, a vendor's current price of a particular material is stored in the purchasing information record. Let's look at material master data in the system. This is the basic Data 1 screen of a material master for a material called Blue Widgets Size 2. It shows the unit of measure. In this case, they are sold by piece. It also shows that the net weight of this widget is 9 pounds. Across the top where it says Basic Data 1, Basic Data 2, etc., each of these tabs allows for input. There are some required fields, but beyond that, a material master can be as detailed as a company needs. Let's look at the SAP Production Planning, or the SAPP module. This module is used to help plan the manufacturing for sales and distribution of products. SAP PP has the ability to handle businesses that have both repetitive manufacturing models, where the manufactured product stays the same over a long period of time, and discrete production models, basically order-based production, where the product can change often. 4 of the major aspects of the SAP Production Planning are the Bill of Materials, routings, capacity planning, and materials requirement planning. Let's look first at the Bill of Materials. The Bill of Materials is often called the BOM in SAP. It is a complete inventory of the raw materials, assemblies, and other components needed to manufacture a product. Essentially, a bill of materials is the ingredients list part of a recipe. Let's take a look at a BOM in the system. This is a screenshot of a bill of material for a material coded as FIN50, fast moving. We see that there are 3 line items, meaning there are 3 components. Each of these components has a different quantity needed to make up the BOM. The first has 4, the second 8, and the third 32. Routings are up next. They are a description of which operations and in which sequence they need to happen for something to be produced. Routings are used for scheduling the production of semi-finished and finished products. They are also used to calculate the operation cost for a finished product. If a bill of materials are the ingredients list of a recipe, the routings are the step-by-steps instruction part of the same recipe, in this case, to make a product. Let's look at a routing in SAP. We'll look at the same product as in the bill of materials coded as the FIN50 fast moving. This is a simple routing where there's only one operation, called assembly. This routing tells a lot of information. We have a base quantity of 100 pieces, and it's going to take 30 minutes to set up the machine and 10 minutes of labor to complete the assembly operation. Next up is capacity planning, which is done to balance the production loads across different work areas, which are called work centers in SAP. This screenshot displays the capacity evaluation of the assembly work center at plant 1710 over a specified date range. If we look at the row highlighted in yellow, in the last column, we can see that our remaining available capacity is 33,089 minutes. This is telling us that this work center needs way more work to be done, so this work center is fully utilized. Finally, materials requirement planning, called MRP, is used to guarantee material availability for production. The key feature of MRP is that when it is run, it will create procurement proposals. It ensures production can happen, and it minimizes the cost of holding too much unnecessary stock. Let's look at MRP in the system. This is a screenshot of a planning result for our material, FIN 50, Fast Moving. It shows us that we have an available quantity of 6 of this material in storage location 1710. Let's have a look at the SAP Quality Management, or SAP QM module. As the name indicates, this module deals with managing quality throughout a company. 3 of the major areas of quality management are quality inspection, quality control, and quality notifications. Let's take a look at each of these areas. Quality inspection helps determine if the units inspected meet defined quality requirements. This is where inspection lots, results recording, and defect recording take place. Let's take a look at an inspection lot in the system. This is an inspection lot for a goods receipt. This means we're inspecting goods that were ordered from an external vendor. This inspection lot had a quantity of 10. Of these 10, 0 units were defective or destroyed. Quality control is the area where different preventive, monitoring, and corrective activities take place. This is also where vendors can be evaluated on quality to see if poor performance means it would be worthwhile seeking out a better vendor. Let's look at an inspection plan in the system. This is an inspection plan for manufacturing of material SG29 at plant 1010. For this material, this inspection plan applies to all lot sizes. Finally, quality notifications are used to record internal or external problems that are caused by poor quality of products. These can be created anywhere in the product cycle. This includes incoming inspection when a product has been purchased externally and final inspection before sending finished products to customers. The SAP Plant Maintenance, or PM module, functions to keep a plant working at the highest level possible. Plant maintenance has 3 major pieces: inspection, preventive maintenance, and repair. The first area of PM we'll look at is inspection. Inspection measures the actual current condition of a production area. Next, preventive maintenance is used to maintain the ideal condition of a production area. Similar to how an oil change in your car keeps everything in good working order, preventive maintenance in SAP ensures the work areas are kept in the best condition possible. Finally, we have repair. Repair functions are used to restore the ideal condition of a production area. Functionality here allows immediate response to an event that causes a production shutdown. Let's look at different plant maintenance orders in SAP. In this screenshot, we're looking at a list of plant maintenance orders. Each of these orders has a description of what needs attention, the equipment number that needs looked at, and, if available, the last 2 columns show the planned total cost and the actual total cost of maintenance. Let's look at the second row. It shows that we have to repair a leaking valve and a cooling tower fan. The planned total cost is $262.08, but work has not begun on this order, so the actual total cost is still 0. SAP Project Systems, or SAP PS, is SAP's integrated project management tool. SAP Project Systems enables companies to manage all projects, large or small scale, throughout their lifecycle. This includes planning, execution, and completion. Externally financed projects are the projects which are sponsored by clients and are executed to meet client requirements. Alternatively, there are internally financed projects, which are projects related to capital investments or overhead cost projects. These are paid for by the companies themselves. The key component of SAP Project System is Work Breakdown Structure, called WBS. WBS forms the basis for organization and coordination in the project. It shows the amount of work, how much time it will take, and the costs involved. They are really buckets where costs and where work can be assigned and then rolled up into a larger project. Once work breakdown is calculated, it allows for other planning such as process planning, cost planning, scheduling, and date and capacity planning. Let's take a look at a small piece of the Project Systems module. This screenshot shows the Assignment tab of the Project Builder for Work Breakdown Structure element. In this case, it's number 11. The assignments of this element have designated the controlling area, the company code, the plant, and the profit center. Next, we'll cover SAP Human Capital Management, or SAP HCM. This module is SAP's solution to manage all human resources processes. The Human Capital Management module has a huge amount of capabilities. Everything in the HCM module relies on organizational management. This is where the organization is set up with different areas, positions, and employee names. Next is employee administration, which handles employee addresses, bank details, and tax information. The HCM module also handles time management to record attendance, shift management, and leave accruals. This leads into benefits management. This is where companies can create their own unique benefits packages. Next, the recruiting capabilities of this module include applicant tracking and reporting to help figure out how effective the recruiting efforts are. There's also a platform that links with external recruiting websites. Finally, learning management provides employees with online and classroom training. It includes a learning management system to track the completion of courses. Let's look at two of these areas in the system. This screenshot shows personal data of an employee. Important to note on this screen is the start date and the to date. This employee started on March 9th, 2017. And because his to date is 12/31/9999, it signifies that this employee is still working at the company. Now, let's take a look at a list of vacancies in an organization. This company has 6 open vacancies. 4 of the positions opened on June 12th, and the other 2 opened on June 19th. At the time this report was run, none of these vacancies had been filled. We know this because the to date for all 6 rows is at 12/31/9999, and the status is marked as vacant. We're now going to log on to the SAP GUI, which stands for Graphical User Interface. To log on, you need the SAP software installed correctly and an internet connection. Oftentimes, you'll need to be on your company's network to establish a connection with the system you want to access. This could mean you need to log on to your company's VPN if you're working remotely. When installed properly, there will be an icon on your desktop called SAP Logon. Double-clicking on the SAP Logon will open the SAP Logon pad. When your SAP system is installed properly and a connection has been created, you'll see the appropriate server in your connections list. My connection is HS4 Commercial SAP S/4HANA. I click on it and click Log On. The first field we want to look at is Client. Clients are a way to separate data. For example, many organizations will have a testing client to test different functionality and a production client where all the real-world operations are being done. In a way, it's just the number of the database you're accessing. In this case, my client is 130, so I'll click in that field and enter 130. Next is the user field. This is just the username. In this case, my username is student001. Next is the password. I'll enter my password here. And once all 3 fields are filled out, we can press Enter. This brings us to the SAP Easy Access screen, where all transactions begin. Now that we've logged on to SAP, we're here on the SAP Easy Access screen. To do anything in SAP, you need to enter into a transaction. Transactions can be entered using transaction codes or T codes. The other way to enter a transaction is using the menu trees. There's a user menu here that lists all the transactions that you'll have access to. By clicking on the SAP menu, the folders here are organized by business area. Let's imagine that we are looking for accounts receivable transactions, so we can post incoming payments. I'm going to expand the accounting folder, and then the financial accounting folder. Here we see the accounts receivable folder, and we can expand that. So we want to post incoming payments. This transaction is under document entry, so we'll expand that folder. Here we see F-28, incoming payments. To enter that transaction, we can double-click on that line. We have now entered the post incoming payments transaction using the SAP menu tree. To do anything in SAP, you need to go into Transaction. Transactions can be entered using the SAP menu tree or using transaction codes, often referred to as T codes. A T code consists of letters, numbers, and punctuation. Every function in SAP has a T code associated with it. Navigating using T codes is generally much faster than using the SAP menu tree. Users almost always prefer that method. Most users also end up memorizing codes, but if you forget, a quick web search can help you out. To navigate using a T code, we'll start on the SAP Easy Access screen. Click in the command field, which is at the top of every screen in SAP. I want to enter into the post incoming payments for accounts receivable transaction. The T code for this is F-28. We entered that into our command bar. This is not case sensitive. Press Enter to enter into the transaction. We've now entered into the post-incoming payments transaction using the T-code. If you forget what transaction code you're in, the easiest way to see that is to go to the SAP menu bar at the top. Clicking to expand opens System Information. By clicking on the HS4-130, I get a menu full of information. In this drop-down list, we see the transaction F-28. If I click on this will now be steady every time I enter a transaction at the top right-hand corner on the SAP menu bar. A really helpful hint in SAP that works a large majority of the time is understanding that transaction codes ending in 01 are usually create, codes entering in 02 are change, and T codes entering in 03 are display transactions. For example, MM01 is the T code for creating a material, MM02 is the T code for changing a material, and MM03 is the code for displaying a material. Finally, whenever you encounter a transaction code that starts with the letter Z, the Z denotes that it is a custom transaction for the system you're working on. It's not a standard out-of-the-box transaction for SAP. Let's talk about changing your user settings. The SAP GUI has different settings that can be changed. The setting changes are tied to your login ID, and they'll stay in place every time you log into the system. To get to the bulk of the settings, we'll go to More, SAP GUI Settings and Actions, Options. At the top of the screen, we can change the theme of our SAP GUI. Just be aware that by changing these themes, the menu bars and the buttons sometimes change from words to icons, and vice versa. One of the other things we would like to change is under Interactive Design. Expand that folder and go to Notifications. For new users, I'd recommend ensuring the tooltip is turned on. This means that whenever I hover over a button or icon in the system, a hint will pop up and describe what the icon or button does. So I click on No Tooltip, and I'll set it to medium. So when I hover over a button or icon for 0.5 seconds, a hint will pop up for me. To apply these changes, you click Apply, and then OK. The final helpful setting to turn on is called Displaying Technical Names. As you can see, we've got our favorites extended here. It shows Change Material, but it's not showing what the transaction code is. By turning on technical names, we'll be able to see what exactly the transaction codes are in our menu tree. To do this, we go to More, Extras, Settings. Selecting the Display Technical Names, and then click Continue. When I expand my Favorites folder, I see that MM02, the T code, is now displayed. Many end users find themselves using the same transactions over and over. It's really helpful to use the Favorites folder on the SAP Easy Access screen to hold all the transactions you use regularly. I'm going to show you how to add, delete, download, and upload your favorites. To add a transaction to the Favorites folder, right-click on the Favorites folder and click Insert Transaction. Here, you need to enter a transaction code. I'll enter MM03, which is Display a Material, and click Continue. You can now see that MM03, Display a Material, has been added to my Favorites folder. I'll do this 2 more times. Next, I'll do MM02, which is to change a material. And finally, I'll add MM01, which is to create a material. Now, if I want to delete any of these transactions from my favorites, I right-click on the favorite I want to delete and select Delete Favorites. I get a success message here in the message bar saying No Deleted from Favorites List. A handy trick when you're working in multiple transactions at the same time is to right-click on the line of the favorite you want to open and choose Execute in New Window. This opens the transaction in your favorites list in a new window. You can have up to 6 windows open at a time. Back to our favorites folder. You can also create subfolders by right-clicking and selecting Insert Folder. I'll name my folder Materials and click Continue. To add favorites to your new folders, all you need to do is drag and drop. Now I can open and close the materials folder within my favorites. Perhaps you want to share your favorites with a colleague because you use similar transactions in the system. You can do this by clicking More, Favorites, Download to PC. Type the name of the folder and click Save. I'll call this Materials. You'll get a warning message that SAP is trying to save a folder on your local machine. We're okay with that, so I'll click Allow. When we want to add these favorites that were now downloaded, we go to More, Favorites, Upload from PC. I now see that the materials folder that I created is in there. I select it and click Open. Again, we get an SAP GUI security screen. We do want to allow this. Now, we can insert them, which means it will only add the favorites we don't already have, or we can append them, which means it will add all the favorites, even if they're duplicates. So I'll click Append. We've now uploaded the materials favorites folder. There are some very common icons, buttons, and messages that come up when using SAP. Let's take a look at some of them. I'm going to enter into a transaction to change a material. The T code for this is MM02. I have two fields available in this transaction, material and change number. The red asterisk next to the material field means that it's required. When I try to hit continue without a valid material number, we get an error message in the footer bar. The error message says, fill out all required entry fields. I'll now fill out a material number and press continue. This brings up a list of views to select. Each view has a checkbox. Checkboxes are used when the system allows multiple choices. Checkbox screens also include select all and deselect all buttons. I'm going to select Basic Data 1 and Basic Data 2. The green check mark is the Continue button. When you see this button, you can also press Enter on your keyboard to continue. We've now entered the Change Material transaction. This transaction and many similar transactions use tabs. Tabs are handy when there's a ton of information on a screen. This sorts the information by area. To navigate between tabs, such as Basic Data 1 and Basic Data 2, you can either click on the next tab, or you can click the three dots. This opens a drop-down for all the tabs available. I'll click on Sales Text. This brings up what is called a dialog box. Dialog boxes in SAP ask for more information before proceeding. I'll enter my plant, sales org, and distribution channel and press Continue. We're now taken into our Sales Text tab. I've decided that I don't want to make any changes to this tab, but I do want to go back to my Basic Data 1 tab. To do this, we go to our three dots and click Basic Data 1. Let's make a change to our description. Right now, it's marked as forklift. If I take forklift out of the description field and try to save this material, I'm again presented with a warning message that says fill out all required entry fields. Let's call this material large forklift and press save. At the bottom of the screen, you now get a message saying that your saving was successful. Material CMFL V00 has been changed. Oftentimes, you're going to want to do multiple things in SAP at once. Now we're going to look at how to use multiple sessions and navigate from within transactions in the SAP GUI. You can actually have up to 6 sessions open at once. To open a new session from the SAP Easy Access screen, go to the 3 lines in the top left corner, click and select New GUI window from the drop-down menu. We've now opened a second session. Once you're in a transaction code navigation changes a little bit. I'm going to enter into display a material with T code MM03. Maybe I realized I need to display a purchase order instead of displaying a material. The T code for displaying a purchase order is ME23N. If I try to enter that before going back to the SAP Easy Access screen, I'll get an error. to fill out all required entry fields. There are two important codes to remember in this situation. The first is /N. When I type / and N and then the new transaction code immediately after and press enter, I'm taken into the new transaction. So I type /N ME23N. I'm now taken into the display purchase order transaction. The other important code to remember is used to open a new session in the new transaction. This code is /O. So if I want to display a material in one session and display a purchase order in the other, I can type /O MM03. I've now opened two SAP sessions. Remember, /N navigates to a new transaction in the same session, and /O opens a new transaction in a new session. To use SAP effectively, you'll need to be able to find the data you want to work with. Whether it's a customer number or an employee ID, you won't always have these things memorized. Any editable field in the SAP GUI that is not free-form text will allow us to search for the data we need. For an example, let's enter transaction MM03, which is display a material. Let's imagine we don't have the material number we need. When I click in the material field, this button appears and it's called the Match Code button. I click on it. This opens the Match Code search screen, and this allows us to search using a large variety of data combinations. By clicking the three dots on the right side of the screen, I can see all the tabs possible to search from. Material by old material, material by bill of material, etc. Now I know what my material is called and what plant I'm working at. I want to display the material that's named forklift, so I'll search using the plant material by description tab. I'll type forklift in the material description field and also click in the plant field. The plant I'm working in is 1710, so I'll enter that here. I click Start Search, and I get material CM FL V00, which is the forklift I want to view. I'll click Forklift and the green check mark, which copies this material number into the field for me. Perfect. We searched for the material we needed. Now sometimes we won't have all the information needed to search. Let's assume that I know the material I want has fork in the name, but I'm not sure what it is called exactly in the system. This is where searching using wildcards can really help. To demonstrate, let's go back into our Match Code button in the material description field. I'll now use the wildcard, which is the asterisk, and then type fork. Then I'll use another asterisk. This search is telling the system that anything can come before or after the word fork, but the search should return all those results for us. I still want only materials in plant 1710, so I click in that field and enter 1710. I now click Start Search. Now we see 10 different materials in plant 1710 that have the word fork in it. Wildcards are really useful when you're searching and don't know exactly when an object is named in the system. Sometimes you'll want to print information directly from the SAP system. The most effective way to do that is to make sure your default printer is set up. From the SAP Easy Access screen, click More, System, User Data. From this screen, you can update your personal information, password, and work function. To set our default printer, we want to go to the Defaults tab. The output device under Spool Control is the field where we want to add our default printer. Right now, it's set as LOCL. I'll click on the Match Code or Search button and clear what is in the output device field. I'll now start the search, which should bring up all of our printers. The results show that there are two output devices created, LOCL for local and LP01. At large organizations, this could be a huge list of printers that you may need to search by name to narrow it down. I'll select LP01 as my default printer, click Copy, and click Save. I now get a success message showing that my user ID has been changed. Now, anytime I see the default print icon in SAP, I can click it and automatically print to my default printer. Now that we've saved our default printer, we get a success message showing that the user student001 has changed. That means my default printer has been selected. And now, anytime you see the print icon, it will automatically print to your default printer. Reporting in SAP is only useful when you're able to define and narrow your search results to a point where they become meaningful to you. The best way to do this is by defining report selection criteria. Let's enter a report transaction. I'll enter MB51, which is the Materials Movement History Report. This brings us to the report selection screen, and this is a good example of what many report selection screens look like. It is broken down into 4 parts. At the top, the item data area allows us to define the objects we want to include or exclude in our report. Defining by material or plant might be typical here. The next area is header data, where you can narrow a report for materials that posted in a certain date range or by a certain user. Below that are the display options, which have to do with the outputs of the reports. And at the bottom, the data source area is where you want your data to come from. The data source area is usually quite technical and should be set up with defaults that will work for what most users are reporting on. For a report like this, perhaps we want to see all the materials movements that occur at a specific plant. I'll click in the plant field and press the match code button. This will bring up the 17 plants available. I'm working in plant 1710, so I'll click on that and press the green check to copy that information into our plant field. This could be quite a large report because I haven't narrowed the search criteria down very much. This is a really good time to point out the stop transaction feature. If you're ever running a report and the system is taking a very long time to return your results, you can stop the transaction. This is done by clicking on the 3 bars in the top left corner of the screen and selecting Stop Transaction from the drop-down menu. I won't click it here, but if I were to, it would take you all the way back to the Easy Access screen. Sometimes this is a good option if you realize you want to narrow your report further. Okay, let's execute this report. Now we see all the materials movements that have occurred at plant 1710. A report in SAP is only as good as the search criteria we enter to define it. Let's look at using the multiple selection button and creating and using search variants as a more robust function of narrowing a report. I've entered the Materials Movement History report. The button at the end of each of the fields is the multiple selection button. I'll select the multiple selection button at the end of the plant field. The multiple selection screen has 4 tabs. It has options to select multiple single values. We can also select ranges of values. This is important in fields where numbering is significant. For example, if the report has to do with invoices, maybe we want to look at invoice 100 through invoice 200. We can also exclude single values, and we can exclude ranges. In our example, I want to exclude 2 plants, so I'll click Exclude Single Values. I click the Match Code button to search and show all my plants in the first row. I want to exclude plant 5000, so I click it and click Copy. Now I select the Match Code button on the second row. I also want to exclude plant DE01, so I click it and click Copy. Now, we click the clock with a small check mark, and this copies the multiple selections over. Our multiple selection button has changed to signify that there is data in that screen. If I hover over it, the tooltip changes to say Multiple Selection Active. Now, when you find yourself running the same report with the same set of search criteria over and over again, you can save the values in a selection set. This is called a variant. To do this, I go up to Save as Variant. This brings us to our Variant Attributes screen. We need to fill out some information here. We can fill in our variant name, which I'm going to call Material Move. The description field is helpful for anyone who is searching for the variant to understand what it's actually going to do. In this case, I'm going to call it Material Movement. We have a few other fields that we can fill out here. The Only for Background Processing option is for when you're running reports with really large amounts of data and you want to run it in the background. It's not necessary for this variant. The Protect Variant option is going to block anyone else from editing my variant. It's going to protect it so only I am able to edit or delete it. I don't want anyone changing this variant, so I'm going to click to activate the checkbox. I'm happy with all the other settings, so I click Save. At the bottom of the screen, it shows my variant has been saved successfully. It also makes the Get Variant button active. The next time we come into this transaction, I can click Get Variant, and our variant is available to choose. I can close this out, and we can execute our report. Our results now show all the material movements in all the plants except the 2 we've excluded. After executing a report, SAP spits out results in a standard format. This output won't always have all the fields available or be in a format that's easy to work with. Let's edit the layout and save it as a display variant in a report. To have data to work with, I've gone into the Materials Movement History report and run it with no search criteria. This default output has 10 columns. This is really just a suggestion of what SAP thinks is going to be important to display. This is all changeable. To edit this, go to More, Current Display Variant. This brings up the Change Layout screen. SAP sometimes calls it Layout and sometimes calls it Display Variant. On the left side of the screen, we see all of the columns that are displayed. It also shows the position. Material is in position 1, which is first on the left. Plant is in position 2, which is second from left, and so on. The length column corresponds to how wide the column is, and the sigma sign will total the column when selected. On the right side, we've got hidden fields. As you can see, there's a ton of information that's not displayed by default. To move any of these fields into the displayed layout, you can select them and click the single left arrow. I'll move Material Description and Sales Order over. Now, I want the material description next to the material, so I'll put 2 in the position for material description and 11 in position for plant. I click Copy, and the changes to the report results are made. We've got material description in column 2, and the sales order column is at the end. I can now save this layout for future use. To do this, I'll go to More, Settings, Layout, Save. I need to name this layout. I'll call it /mat move. The reason I start with a slash is because I want to make this a global layout. I think my colleagues might find this useful, and I want to make this layout available for them to use. I'll give a description called Material Movement. Again, because I want this to be a global layout, I'll uncheck User Specific and click Save. In this status bar, it shows that the layout has been saved. To call a layout, go to More, Settings, Layout. Choose. Select the layout you want to use and click Copy. After running a report in SAP, you can manipulate the results to make them more useful. Sorting data in reports is one of the adjustments that can help. To do this, let's look at the output for the Materials Movement History report. I've run this report for the entire company, so we've got a lot of rows of data to work with. To sort, you can click your cursor in the column header that you want to sort by. Let's sort in quantity by unit of entry. I want to see the goods movement with the largest quantity moved. I click Quantity of Unit in Entry and click the Sort in Descending Order icon. I now see the largest material movement was 1,000 units of material EWMS 4-01 and MAT2 ZPS 1. We can also sort text fields. Let's say I want the material numbers in alphabetical order. I'll click in the material field and click Sort in Ascending Order. The report is now sorted in alphabetical order by material, with blanks first, followed by numbers, and then letters. Sorting can be a powerful tool to help visualize SAP reports in a more meaningful way. Sometimes, after running a report in SAP, you want to see more specific results. You can drill down in reports by using the filtering tool. To demonstrate, we're back in the output for the Materials Movement History report. I've run this report for the entire company, so we've got a lot of rows of data to work with. To filter, we go to More, Set Filter. We're taken to the Define Filter Criteria screen. We can filter by as many fields as we like. I've run this report for the entire company, but perhaps now I only want to see the material movement history at plant 1710. I select the plant field and use the left arrow to move it into the Filter Criteria column. Now I click Copy. This brings us to the Filter Criteria screen. I can now enter a single value or a range, or I can enter a multiple selection using the multiple selection button. Because I want to only view results for one plant, I'm going to enter 1710 into the Select Single Value field. I now click Execute. We now only have results from plant 1710 as seen in the plant column. A good way to think of filtering is that it's quite similar to narrowing your report search criteria after you've already run the report. Sometimes it will come in handy to print a report to have a physical record. This is quite simple in SAP. To demonstrate, we're back in the output for the Materials Movement History Report. Once we're in the report, we click the Print button in the top right. This brings up the print screen. If your printer is already defined, it will come up in the output device. Mine is defined as LP01. We also need to change the print time. Select Immediately so your document prints immediately. Now to print, click Continue. We now have a success message that says spool request number has been sent to the printer LP01. Another helpful hint here is that there's also an option to print to PDF. Perhaps you have to email the results of the report to someone who doesn't have access to the system. This can be a very useful solution. To do this, we go back to the Print button, and we change our output device to LOCL for local. Pressing Enter will bring up new menu options. Under Windows Device, we want to ensure that Microsoft Print to PDF is selected, and we want to make sure our print time is set to immediately. It is, so we'll press Continue. This will now bring up a Save Print Output As. I'll call this the Materials Movement Report Export. I'll save it to my desktop and click Save. We have now exported the results of our report to PDF. While you can do some filtering right inside SAP, it's often more practical to work with your report results in other software, usually Excel. Let's look at exporting reports to Excel. To demonstrate, we're in the output for the Materials Movement History Report. Now that we're in the report, we click More, List, Export. From here, we can choose word processing, spreadsheet, or text file. We want to export a spreadsheet. This brings up a screen to choose a format. I'll choose the default Excel OpenOffice XML format and click Continue. This brings up the Save As screen. I'll save this as Materials Spreadsheet and click Save. This brings up an SAP GUI security screen. It's asking whether the system is okay to create a file on our computer. It is, so we'll click Allow. This brings up another SAP GUI security screen. SAP is trying to open Excel, so we do want to allow this. Excel now automatically opens, and all of our data from the report can now be manipulated in Excel.